Hello, bonjour et bienvenue, welcome to this 2026 Nouvelle Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Profile Update. Yeah, a little while ago, I guess a couple years ago now, I made a true deck profile for the Nouvelle, and things have changed a little bit since then. We've got some new toys to play with, so I thought I would make this quick update to get everybody up to speed on what my deck looks like as of right now. So, yeah, we are going to follow a similar format to my other deck profiles. I'll go over the new stuff first, and then I'll do a quick overview of the rest of the deck. I won't go as in-depth as I typically do, so with any luck, this video will be a bit shorter. Now, we're gonna just jump right into that, though, and we are going to start with the new stuff. So, first up, we have the Yugioh Nouvelles. Now, this one is, it's another pendulum monster, and it's actually more useful for its pendulum effect than it typically is as a monster. So, during the main phase, if this card was activated this turn, let's get this into view for you. If this card was activated this turn, then you can add a non-pendulum Nouvelle card from your deck to your hand. And if a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, except during the damage step, then you can special summon this card. So, yeah, I guess it does technically have a monster effect as well. If it's tributed, you can put it into the pendulum zone, which is useful for your ritual summons. And it does something else. Target an effect monster, increase its level by up to 3 once per turn. Your opponent special summons a monster, banish a recipe ritual spell from your hand, deck, or graveyard, apply its effect. Okay, so that typically doesn't really come into play in this deck. But being able to search for a non-pendulum Nouvelle is a very useful ability, a great consistency piece to have, because as this deck was previously, consistency was a little bit of an issue. Sometimes you just don't have the right cards in your hand, and then this deck doesn't do much. So it's good to have this guy around. I do run him at 2 copies, because he can be searched through other effects, or just, there is another card that digs for Nouvelle cards in the top 5 cards of your deck, so it's not difficult to get him otherwise. It's just nice to have him if you do. And then, of course, we've got the Angry Burger, the main course, a level 6 ritual monster with 2800 attack, 1850 defense. And this card, I think I should point out to you, this card is always treated as Hungry Burger. So Angry Burger actually doesn't exist as a card. This is Hungry Burger number 2 and Hungry Burger number 3 in this deck. It does some cool stuff, though. It really does. It has, like, a great ability, and I'm having a difficult time with my camera. It just doesn't want to focus. And there you are. So, you see, monsters your opponent controls that can attack must attack this card. Okay. And you can reveal this card in your hand, and add a Nouvelle monster from your deck to your hand, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. Again, great consistency piece, you need that sort of thing. And as a quick effect, you can tribute an attack position monster on either field, and special summon Hungry Burger with 2000 attack from your hand or deck. And we will see Hungry Burger later, although I'm sure you're already well acquainted. But yeah, 2 copies of definitely not Angry Burger. And then into the extra deck, I'm now using a Silhouette Rabbit, which is a kind of cool, generic way to get a little bit of extra disruption into play. This deck does want to go first, and it does want to play as a control deck, so this is a good way to get some extra control. It's a Link 2 with 1500 attack. It only needs 2 effect monsters. It's easy to play. Neither monster can be destroyed by battle with this thing. And if this card is Link summoned, you can set a continuous trap from the deck with an effect that special summons itself as a monster. Ah, alright, there it is. And if a card in the spell and trap zone is special summoned to the monster zone, then you can target a spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy it. So not only does this get a trap monster into your field, it also allows you to destroy something of your opponent's. And what are you looking for? Well, you are going to look for the angel statue Azaroon. One copy of this because you don't need more than that. You can special summon it as an effect monster, which sometimes you just want to do, sometimes you just need an extra monster. But the important thing is that when your opponent would special summon a monster while this card is in the monster zone, you can send it to the graveyard, and then that you negate the special summon of your opponent's monster. That's the long and short of it. Also, if this card is destroyed by battle, then you destroy the monster that destroyed this card, so it's a general pain. If your opponent wants to special summon anything from the extra deck, they have to get around this thing first. So yeah, it's a annoying little card that your opponent has to jump over if they want to continue with their plays. And it's, again, very easy to get onto the field, so that's why it's here, just in case you've got nothing better to do. And now we're serving up the old stuff. So this is a pile of Nouvelle cards that already existed in the deck before, but they're still here because this really is the heart and soul of what the deck is. So we're starting out with the Poissonnière de Nouvelles, another pendulum monster, sort of like the Chef, and it has similar abilities, or one similar ability anyway, because if this card would be tributed for, say, a ritual summon perhaps, while it's on the field, then it will go into your pendulum zone and it can activate its other effects from there. That effect being you can target a monster on the field, special summon this card, and change that monster's battle position. It targets something, though. I guess the Chef also targets something, and that is noteworthy. But when this card is normal or special summoned, this is another important bit, then you add a level 1 ritual monster or a recipe card from your deck to your hand. Or it does something else that I've never done, so it's probably not relevant. The important thing is this just gets the ball rolling with that level 1 or the ritual spell. And we've got 2 of these Poissonnières, because it's nice to have them, but it's, as you've seen, very easy to just search this sort of thing out. And then we'll just quickly go over all of the ritual monsters and what they do. So the level 1 Bouillabaisse de Nouvelles here, when it comes into play, you sort of dig through the top 5 cards of your deck, and you can add a Nouvelle to your hand and shuffle the rest back in. And when... Okay, I guess this is a bit more complicated than quickly going over. When this card is targeted for something, then you can attribute it and an attack position monster on either field and special summon a level 2 or 3 Nouvelle ritual from your hand or deck. So all of the Nouvelle have similar abilities where you can target them and then tribute stuff and then bring out bigger Nouvelles from your deck and just sort of climb up the level ladder that way. Conférat de Nouvelles is the level 2 Nouvelle, and when it's summoned you can target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it, so this is a bit of removal. Sometimes it's useful. I guess if you're going first, you're likely not going to use this thing, but any turn after that, it has its uses, it really does. And yeah, you can tribute this thing in an attack position monster when it's targeted to special summon a level 3 or 4 Nouvelle. Now the level 3 is one that you'll be seeing a lot, Poelty de Nouvelles, because when it is special summoned you draw a card, and that's awesome. But this one's a bit different. The level 3 and 4 have a slightly different, because not only do their effects trigger when you target them, but also when an attack is declared involving them. Or maybe just, blah blah blah, card or effect is activated, targets this, or when a monster is targeted for an attack, when any monster is targeted for an attack. There you go, it's easier to trigger these ones. But anyway, yeah, then you can tribute this in an attack position monster, and you can play a level 4 or 5 Nouvelle. Okay, what is the level 4 Nouvelle? Well, this one is it's a bit more specific, this one. It might not see a lot of play, but you really want it in the deck. Because when this one's special summon, you target up to 3 cards in any graveyards, shuffle them into the deck. Alright, so you can disrupt your opponent that way or recycle your own things. The Foie Glacier de Nouvelles, by the way, is what it's called. And just like the last one, when it is targeted or when an attack is declared, you can tribute this thing, special summon a level 5 or 6 Nouvelle. And the level 5 one, again, very useful, you're very likely to be using this anytime you possibly can, is Balaminière de Nouvelles. There we go, maybe I pronounced that properly. So what this one does, this one is one of the big boys and it is different. Because if it is special summoned, you just add a Nouvelle or recipe card from your deck to your hand. Great, love to see it. But this one can just target an attack position monster on your opponent's field, tribute it, and then special summon a level 6 Nouvelle ritual monster from your hand or deck. And this is a quick effect, if this card was special summoned by the effect of another Nouvelle monster. So you really are incentivized to climb that level ladder to get to this guy, because then he's just great quick effect removal. And yes, what is the level 6? Well, that is Belgril de Nouvelles, which is kind of the boss monster of this deck. One of them, anyway. And this one, it doesn't go any higher than 6, unfortunately. So this one just sort of does a lot of things. Because when it is special summoned, you can negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls. Hey, that's cool. And if this card was special summoned by the effect of a Nouvelle monster, you can tribute as many monsters your opponent controls as possible. Alright. But you typically don't really want to do that, surprisingly. Because as a quick effect, you can target an attack position monster your opponent controls, tribute it, and special summon a Hungry Burger from your hand or deck. There we go, that's where the burger comes into play. So this is either a one-sided board wipe, which I have rarely done, because typically you're more interested in picking off one specific piece of your opponent's puzzle to play a Hungry Burger of your own. And remember, Angry Burger is Hungry Burger, so you can play Angry Burger and then gobble up something else. And does this thing do anything else? No, only once per turn. Alright. Well, then that also brings us, of course, to the 2000 attack Hungry Burger itself. You're never gonna play this with Hamburger Recipe. The only way you're gonna do that is with your Belgril de Nouvelles, or with the Angry Burger. But it's an important part of the process, so that's why we still have our single copy of the legitimate Hungry Burger to go with the 2 copies of the other Hungry Burgers. Now, these ones aren't actually Nouvelle cards, but they might as well be Manju of the 10,000 Hands. I run at 2 copies, level 4, Light Fairy. When this card is normal or flip summoned, add a ritual monster or a ritual spell from your deck to your hand. So again, this just gets you the missing piece, whatever you might need, just normal summon this thing and you search it to your hand. Because typically you can do a lot of things in this deck from the hand, so losing your normal summon to Manju of the 10,000 Hands is not the worst thing. Remember, you can often bring back your pendulum monsters from the pendulum zones into the monster zones through some means. And to finish off the monster portion of this deck, I've got this pile of hand traps. So you probably know what these all do, but I'll go over them quickly anyway. We've got 3 copies of Effect Veiler. You discard it to negate an effect on your opponent's side of the field, a monster effect, that is. Very useful. And then we've got Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 copies of that. If your opponent draws a card or searches from the deck or sends from the deck to the graveyard, you can discard this to negate that effect. Very useful. And then we've got the Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 2 copies of that. If your opponent activates a monster, I think, or spell trap effect, yeah, that's already face up on the field, you can discard this to destroy that target. It doesn't negate, it destroys, but that is both better and worse, depending, but it's still disruptive. Very useful. And 2 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. This one's a bit more specific. When your opponent special summons a monster, you can discard this to negate its effects, and then if it leaves, your opponent takes damage equal to its attack. But still, it's another effect negation, which is very useful. And into the spell cards. Here we go. Nouvelle Restaurant at Table is the field spell. So when you activate this, you take a recipe card from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which is useful, it really is, but the rest of this is also kind of cool. You can place a ritual monster from your hand on the bottom of your deck to draw a card, and at the end of your turn, you can target a recipe card and another card in your graveyard, put them on the bottom of your deck in any order, and draw a card. So this is why I have all those hand traps in this deck, because you are going to be drawing a number of cards through this, including one right at the end, where if you had drawn a trap card from this effect, you couldn't use it. But if you draw a hand trap, like Effect Veiler, then you are still free to use it on your opponent's turn. So that's why I've constructed the deck in this way, because it's very easy to get this card into play, so you're probably always going to see it. Concours de Cuisine, the culinary confrontation. Run this at 3 because this is your main starter. This card makes your whole game go a lot easier if you can get it. You choose a Nouvelle Pendulum monster and a Patissier Pendulum monster from your hand, deck, or extra deck, and special summon one to your field and one to your opponent's field. So that just gets the ball rolling, and it gives your opponent an attack position monster for you to tribute. And you can do something, banish this from your graveyard, target a face-up monster, and it gains 200 attack for each recipe in the graveyards. That's less important than the fact that this targets something, which again gets the ball rolling and lets you do other things. So yeah, 3 copies of that. Voici la carte. Today's menu is another pseudo-starter. You reveal 2 Nouvelle monsters with different names from your deck, your opponent chooses one, and you add it to your hand. And if you got a ritual monster this way, you either get a Recette de Poison or a Recette de Viande. And those are the ritual spells. So then you can actually play them, maybe. But it's a bit of a mind game playing this, because your opponent does get to choose. So, ideally, depending on what's already in your hand, you kind of want to give them a no-win situation. But it's also kind of just like a pot of greed, because you can just get 2 cards. So we got 3 copies of Voici la carte. And then here we've got Recette de Poison, the fish recipe, which is typically used to play Bouillabaisse de Nouvelle, because then you can add another recipe ritual spell from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except this one. So we've got 2 copies of it, because this one's a little bit more important. The other recipe being Recette de Viande, the meat recipe, which is typically used to summon Conférère de Nouvelle, because if you do summon that one specifically, I should say you can use either of these to summon any Nouvelle. It's just specific ones have different effects. But yeah, if you summon that one here, then you can change all your opponent's defense position monsters to attack. Which happens occasionally, sometimes that matters. But we only need 1 copy of this because you're going to add it to your hand, hopefully. And yeah, you can keep on recycling it with the restaurant field spell. And then we've got Pre-Preparation of Rites, 1 copy of this. I think it might even be limited to 1 at this point, but I've always only used 1. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong about that. It doesn't matter, I only use 1. You add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, and a ritual monster that is listed on that ritual spell. So yeah, there you go, you can get either of your recipes and the little Nouvelle monster that goes with it. a very potent card and something your opponent is probably going to try to stop if they can. And then we've got Called by the Grave, which will stop your opponent from stopping you. Well, everybody knows what this does, right? You banish a monster from your opponent's graveyard and negate all effects of that monster, so your opponent hand traps you, you banish it, and then the hand trap doesn't work. Yeah, very useful. And the Cross-Out Designator, because I have so many different hand traps in this deck, it is useful to have Cross-Out Designator, which is similar to Called by the Grave. You banish one of your own whatever hand trap from your deck, and then it negates that card's effect. So if you're using the same hand trap that your opponent is using somewhere in your deck, then you can use Cross-Out Designator to designate it as a no-go, and then it simply won't work. Very useful. Which finally brings me to the final card in the deck. One more trap card, that is the Chef's Special Recipe, the counter trap for the Nouvelle. When a spell trap monster effect is activated while you control a Nouvelle ritual monster, negate its activation, then you can destroy that card if you control a monster special summoned by another Nouvelle monster's effect. And it does something weird with Hungry Burger, too. If you special summon one, banish this card, tribute as many monsters your opponent controls as possible. Yeah, okay, I've never seen that happen. Typically, activating this once is enough to throw a wrench in your opponent's plans. But yeah, this is also a recipe, so take note of that, because it is easily searched by other cards in this deck. So hopefully you can get your Chef's Special Recipe into play so that you can use it. Again, this deck does want to act kind of as a control deck. There's a lot of control elements to it, so your field might not look that impressive at the end of your turn, but you will have a number of tricks up your sleeve to stop your opponent. And now, here we've got the extra deck, which I am just gonna quickly go over, because I don't think the rest of this is any different, besides the rabbit that I already talked about. So I got Pâtissier Couverture here, we've got two of her. Effects don't matter. This card exists purely because of Culinary Confrontation, and I have two just in case you draw a second copy of it on your next turn and you want to use it. So yeah, we've got two of her purely for tribute fodder for your own cards. Chaos Angel here is a big ol' level 10 synchro that needs a tuner and a 1+ non-tuner light or dark monsters. Except if you're using light or dark monsters, then you can treat them as tuners, so you don't actually need tuners in your deck. And yeah, there's a lot of dark and light monsters in this deck, so Chaos Angel is very playable. When it comes into play, then you can target a card on the field and banish it. That's the main reason it's here, otherwise it's just huge with 3,500 attack. So yeah, just do your mental math and see if you can level up to 10 at some point. Relinquished Anima here needs a level 1 monster to play, and what it does is it gobbles up whatever it's pointing to, and then, yeah, then it steals its attack. That's really all it's for. Sometimes you can really trick people with this if they're not paying attention. You do have level 1 monsters in your deck, so it's quite possible to be able to play this thing. Salamandrate Almirage is another Link 1 that needs 1 normal summoned monster with 1,000 or less attack, which your level 1 monsters are. But you can tribute this and target a monster you control so it can't be destroyed. That is a target! So sometimes you just need to do this if you want to be able to start your other Nouvelle nonsense from happening. Nightmare Cerberus here is a really generic Link 2. You can discard a card, target a special summoned monster, your opponent's main monster zone, and destroy it. But that's a target. Again, sometimes you need to target, right? Nightmare Phoenix does the same thing, except with destroying spell and trap cards your opponent controls. Just an easy way to destroy some stuff. Link 2 that only needs 2 monsters with different names. Very, very generic. IP Masquerena is a great card to end on, because it enables things for your opponent's turn. During your opponent's main phase, you can, as a quick effect, link summon a link monster using materials you control, including this card. So it's a fun way just to get something in play. Maybe that would be better off used when your opponent has things in play instead of on your first turn when they have nothing. So yeah, this is a good way to play some tricky removal. Dynamondo here is a Link 2 that needs 2 monsters, including a ritual monster. And if it's special summoned, target a card on the field and a ritual monster in your graveyard and shuffle them both into the deck. This is a great piece of removal to get rid of tough-to-deal-with cards. That's why we've got 2 copies of it, because it's very possible you'll use one turn and use another one the next turn. As a quick effect, too, I think only during your opponent's turn, yeah, you can tribute to this card, target a ritual monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, or special summon it. So that one you need to be careful with, though. You need to remember which ritual monsters you played legitimately, and which were special summoned by the effect of another nouvelle. Because you can't bring those ones back. You can only bring back the ones that you special summoned yourself with a recipe ritual spell. But yeah, either way, Dynamondo is a very useful card. 2200 attacks, pretty good for a Link 2. So yeah, 2 copies of that. SP Little Knight is what you'll probably go into with IP Masquerena, because if it's Link summoned with a Fusion Synchro Excise or Link monster as material, target a card on the field, or in either graveyard and banish it. But then your monsters can't attack directly this turn, so you want to do this on your opponent's turn if you can. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can target 2 face-up monsters on the field, including one you control, and banish them until the end phase. So this is just all kinds of annoying for your opponent to deal with. Nephthys, the Sacred Flame, is a Link 3 that gets more and more effects depending on how many ritual monsters you use to play it. It's very possible to have a lot of ritual monsters in play. And then you can play this, and it becomes gigantic, and it can't be destroyed, and it can't be targeted. So yeah, it's not a bad finisher if you really need it. Link Male Archfiend is similar. It needs a ritual monster to be played. But what does it do? If it's special summon, target a ritual monster you control or in your graveyard. All monsters your opponent currently controls lose attack equal to that monster's attack until the end of the turn. Yeah, so again, this is a finisher to make your opponent's stuff really weak. And 2800 attack isn't too bad. And finally, we've got the Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, which is really just your out to certain monsters that can't otherwise be destroyed. Because when you play it, you can use one monster your opponent controls as material to play this thing, which you can do on your opponent's turn with IP Masquerena, which is just something to keep in mind. 3000 attack is quite sizable. It also negates effects from the graveyard, which is sometimes relevant, you'd be surprised. But yeah, mostly it's just to tribute your opponent's cards so that you can play this thing, which is a nice ability to have. And before I get into the gameplay section, I do have some honorable mentions I'd like to go over. Diviner the Herald, this is a classic ritual support card, which I am no longer using in this deck, because the card that goes with it is now banned. You see, you used to be able to send something from your extra deck to the graveyard when you played this, and you would send Herald of the Arclight to the graveyard so that you could add a ritual monster or spell or something to your hand. But other decks could not be trusted with this power, so that ruined it for everybody else, and I can no longer use Herald of the Arclight, which means I can no longer use Diviner of the Herald. Luckily, we got other consistency pieces to replace this, but still, it's a shame to see it go. We also have the Nouvelle recipe book, Recette de Nouvelles, which is okay, I guess. I don't know, I don't really see any reason to use this in my deck. It does a whole bunch of stuff, but the deck seems to function perfectly fine without it, so I'm not really too bothered by not using it. And then we have Choju of the Trillion Hands, which I did use previously, I actually did, but yeah, again, we've got new consistency pieces. We don't need to play this thing. It was a dream, but that's all it was. Okay, so let's just take a look at a quick gameplay demo now. This is sort of what you're going to try doing on your turn. Now, maybe you can do all of this, maybe you can only do some of this. It all depends really on what's in your hand. This is kind of a best case scenario, but it's not like this never happens, right? So in any event, this is sort of what the gameplay of this deck is going to look like in one way or another. Now, the first thing that we need to do is make an assumption. We are going to assume that we have either Bouillabaisse or the Recette de Poison in our opening hand. Now, as we've seen throughout this video, there are many ways to get these cards to our opening hand, so this isn't that much of an assumption, but it is something that we're going to have to keep in mind. It is very possible, unfortunately, that, well, sometimes your opening hand might not be so stellar, but in this case, for the sake of argument, we are going to assume we have one of these two cards to begin with, so just keep that in mind as well. Now, we are going to get started with the Concours de Cuisine, our culinary confrontation. So when activated, what this card is going to do, it is going to special summon the Pâtissier Couverture to our opponent's side of the field, and it will special summon Poissonnière de Nouvelles to our side of the field. Now, this is kind of important placement. We want to make sure that the Pâtissier is directly across from our extra monster zone. That way, if the opponent stops us right here, at the very least, we can use the Poissonnière as link material to play Relinquished Anima, and then just gobble up the Pâtissier so that your opponent doesn't have a free monster on board. That would be, yeah, that would be not good. That's not very conducive to our game plan. But, assuming that they don't stop us because, you know, this is a demonstration and we want to see how this works, assuming everything goes according to plan, we've got the Poissonnière on board, and then we are going to search for whichever one of these we don't have, either the Bouillabaisse or the Recette de Poison, so that we could activate our fish recipe, tributing the Poissonnière to special summon the Bouillabaisse. Now, this, special summoned, is going to dig through the top 5 cards of our deck to hopefully hit another Nouvelle card to add to our hand. Because we used Recette de Poison, we are going to add Recette de Viande to our hand, so hey, maybe we can play something with it right away. And because we tributed the Poissonnière from the field, we got to add it to the Pendulum Zone. So, there we go. We've got a couple freebies in hand now, hopefully. And we've got our good friend here in the Pendulum Zone who can activate its effect immediately. So we are going to target the Bouillabaisse to change its battle position, which is not going to happen because we contribute the opponent's attack position monster, and it contribute itself to special summon from the deck our Poilty de Nouvelles, and the Poissonnière comes back. So, there we go. Now our field looks a little bit like this. We draw an additional card off of the Poilty, so that's pretty great. We've got even more ammunition in our hand, and, well, this is where things would end if we didn't have Concours de Cuisine in the graveyard. So we're gonna banish it, like such, and target our Puelti, who will then tribute itself, and our other attack position monster, who will just go back to the Pendulum Zone, to special summon our big level 5 Balamunière de Nouvelles, who we can actually play in defense position. This one doesn't have to be in attack, because this one doesn't care so much about our own things being in attack. When it enters the battlefield, search the library for the Nouvelle restaurant, which we can put into play. Let's just get everything nicely into frame here. So we put this into play, and when it comes into play, we can search for Chef's Special Recipe, which we can also put into play. So there's a good counter trap there for us, and this is kind of where our plays are going to end. This is sort of what you're aiming for at the end of your turn. Of course, you could do more, depending on what's in your hand, right? You could have IP Masquerena or whatever in play, just some extra tricks. But yeah, this is largely what in most games you're going to wind up seeing. But you do have a lot more than you might think. You see, the Nouvelle restaurant, for one thing, is going to draw you at least one more card by recycling a couple cards from your graveyard. Now, you really want to recycle these two so that you can use them again later on, the Bouillabaisse and the Recette de Poisson. So put those back at the bottom of your library, and then you draw an additional card. If you have an extra ritual monster in your hand, you can also use the restaurant to draw an additional card. And with all of this extra card draw, hopefully you have a hand trap or two on standby. But again, on your opponent's turn, you still aren't helpless. You see, because the Balamunière was special summoned by another Nouvelle effect, you can use its effect at quick effect speed, tributing one of your opponent's monsters to special summon the Belgrille de Nouvelles. And when it enters, it'll negate all of your opponent's monster's effects, and then you do have the choice to tribute all of your opponent's monsters at once, or tribute one of them in attack position to special summon one of our hungry burgers, like the Angry Burger, which is definitely not an angry burger. It says so right there, it's a hungry burger. So that's kind of the choice you have to make. It is a quick effect, so even if you choose to tribute everything of your opponent's, you can then tribute one specific card over top of all that to play this, but if you have Angry Burger in play and your opponent still has stuff in play, like maybe you didn't tribute all of it, you can then use its effect to play another, this time definitely real, Hungry Burger. So, yeah, you have tributed 1, 2, 3 of your opponent's cards, you've given yourself a lot of new monsters in play, and if you add up all of their attack power, they do in fact have over 8,000 in total, which means you have lethal on board for when it comes back around to your turn. And you do, I guess, also have a rather potent counter trap in the waiting as well. So yeah, that is pretty much the best sort of start that you can get off of just one card. So keep that all in mind, remember what needs to go into what, and yeah, you've got this double order of Hungry Burgers just waiting to be served. And there you have it. That is my 2026 Nouvelle Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck as it currently stands, and as I currently play it on Master Duel. I guess I didn't make this clear earlier explicitly, as I normally do, but I do play all of my decks on Master Duel, and I do build them according to the TCG ban list, just so that, you know, everything's on the up and up, and it's good and legal. Now, yeah, we've got a couple new toys, as I said. We've got the extra consistency pieces that the deck really did need. It was certainly a positive boon for the deck to receive. But is this deck actually good? I guess, to put it bluntly. The answer is, no, not really. It's a really fun deck, right? The idea, the theme is hilarious, and being able to tribute your opponent's stuff to play your own hamburgers is a really hilarious move to make. But even with the new search cards, a lot of the issues are still present in this deck. Sometimes you draw a hand of 5 cards, and they don't really do anything, right? You got a handful of ritual monsters, and then you're kinda stuck. Or you get too much of your removal and not enough of your actual playmakers, and then you're still kind of stuck. Although that does really lend itself to this deck being a control deck, because sometimes you do just need to play out a couple extra turns and control the board, hopefully, in order to get enough damage through. Like you just saw, in a pretty good scenario with this deck, you still barely reach the 8,000 damage you need to take out your opponent. So if they can hinder you in any way, you might not even have that much damage on board, and then you need to use all of your control to make sure the game goes long enough that you can get another turn or two worth of attacks in. But really, does a deck need to be the best in order to be fun? No, of course it doesn't. That is silly talking. Don't for a second think that that's the only way you can play this game. Even a silly deck like the Nouvelle is perfectly playable if you just want to have some fun, and maybe if you're at slightly lower power level table, you can certainly get some wins in. I guess even against higher powered decks, I've certainly gotten some wins in with the burgers, because sometimes the opponent just doesn't know what these cards do, and then they play stuff in attack mode, and then you gobble them up, and yeah, they just don't see that coming. Anyway, yep, that is going to wrap it up for this video, so I do hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, then please leave a like, a comment, subscribe, and I hope you'll join me again next time for whatever deck I might be profiling next. Till then, ta-ta. Oh, yeah! That was worth waiting for. Oh my goodness gracious, the double secret rare box. I like it. Oh, and the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Oh my, oh my, oh my. That's a good one. Okay, here we go. This is the card I wanted. The rest of this, garbage. Don't need it.